Welcome into the Pats Nation. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Good morning, Mark. Are you there?
No, of course I'm here.
Wake and Joe is with us in the booth. Mark, I thought you were going to bring some Bloody Marys for the class today.
No, listen. It's too early. I can't. I gotta be
We
good.
need
We're on
something.
air. I can't. We're on
We
air.
need something.
You
know?
listen.
I'm
Yeah.
2 in. I'm
Joe's ready.
to go.
And
Joe's ready to go.
Because you're going to be at this game today, Joe.
We're gonna
Oh,
go
Joe,
watch
I
it.
didn't realize you were going to the game today.
Oh yeah. We're gonna go watch them kick the crap out of the Jets.
who you picked as a loss today in preseason, just so you know, Joe. Okay.
My original pick was a win.
But anyway, Joe is with us in the booth, who will be at the game. So make sure you go and find them. And you're watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, 790 The Score. And make sure you give us a call and heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, PATS. It's a message line. Have a take. There's plenty of them. So bring one and Joe will pick it. Or you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Got a good one today in preparation for this Jets game. We're going to go QB breakdown, and we're going to go Pats preview so we can tell you what's it going to take to win this game. We're going to go into the coach's corner and see if we can clean up that mess. And we'll pick a few more winners in Sunday spread. We've been pretty good, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Everybody's doing good. I've had several Bloody Marys. We're ready to go. You guys ready to talk quarterback?
Yeah.
What?
Goodness.
You ready to talk QB breakdown, Joe? Let's have it.
Pause.
Okay, now.
Hit it, boys.
Okay, Mark. So
I thought he was vastly improved today. I thought he took the coaching from the first game, watched the film, got rid of the ball on time, certainly protected it better. Didn't get in a position where he took too many, bad sacks at all. I thought that was a big problem in week one. I thought he was, at first blush, I thought he was terrific in this game. And, the advanced analytics back it up. Drake May was, I think, the number 2 passer on expected points added this week to this point. Last week, everybody thought he was great, but he was 23rd out of 26 after Sunday's play. He was the best passer on third down this week, on EPA per dropback. So I thought he put it all together. And in fact, I thought it was a mistake not to ride his hot hand. I thought Alex Van Pelt didn't sense the game, didn't sense how his quarterback was seeing the game, and just sort of stuck with what he was going to do coming into the game.
Yeah. That, of course, was Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal this week talking about Drake May. Making a lot of good points. We talked about it yesterday on Corso and Catone about much of what Bedard is saying there as to how the improvements. Now, he's still, like we talked about yesterday, still missed a couple of throws, threw late, threw behind guys, but he corrected the problem as the game went on. The biggest thing to me is he's not bailing out. He's not creating his own pressure. He's trusting the pocket. And that's tough to do on this team, is to trust the pocket.
It is tough to do. And Chris, he and a couple of times when he did run out of the pocket, it was to run for first downs. He reminded, and I think I said this to you during the game, Chris, he's got a little Josh Allen in him. He's not Josh Allen, obviously. He's nowhere near as big, strong. I'm not saying that. But he has a little Josh Allen in him, Chris. When you see some of the things he does in the pocket and how he runs for first downs, which we thought he had that athleticism coming out of college, and he's showing it, Chris.
No, he is. And I mean, I would have preferred, he missed a couple of throws later in the game, which, that I didn't like too much. But, man, 20 with that offensive line and those receivers right now, 26 of 37, 276, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Okay, QBR a rating of 109.7. Listen, that's a good week. Now, he probably got away with a couple that he may have thrown picks. One of them, I don't blame him. One of them, I blame KJ Osborne because he stinks and he run a bad route. We talked about it yesterday. But overall, overall, I thought he played well. So now coming into this game, okay, he came in late and against the Jets.
But Chris, how about this though? when Bedard says that they didn't ride the hot hand, and he blamed Van Pelt for that. So he did try to. Then after he was hot, Chris, then he flips it and he does try to establish the run, which I thought was a mistake too, because put him in the shotgun and spread him out. He did have the hot hand.
Jacksonville has got one of the worst pass defenses in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, and when May showed you at that point that he was seeing the field well and reading the progressions, and listen, that's in the face of the wide receivers running some pretty sloppy routes all day long. The turf was sloppy.
We'll get to that when we talk about the wide receivers. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and so I think he's hampered. He's got one hand tied behind his back because he's got a lousy OC.
Yeah,
I mean, Alex Van Pelt is not an OC. He's a quarterback's coach. So I mean, you want to
he's a rethread. He's a rethread at that.
Yeah, we'll talk in Coach's Corner about this, but fine. You want to give the AVP some credit for developing May a little bit because he looks okay. Okay.
Fine. Would you get? But is that him or is that McAdoo? Because McAdoo's a quarterback's guy too.
We don't know. We don't know.
What I mean?
You know, for all the transparency that they have, I don't know who the hell's doing what over there. I know they're not doing much, but when you come into this game now, it was obviously Brissett in the last game. Now May came in the game late, for that last drive against the Jets and looked pretty good. Now, the Jets game was wrapped up. Everybody knew it. They didn't let him finish the damn drive. I don't know why. But what do you need to see? Because the Jets, the Jets can get pressure. They did it. They did it.
So you mean what do we need? You're asking
what's May?
May?
What does May need to? What do you need to see out of him?
The Jets have a better defense, obviously, than Jacksonville, and they will disguise some things, and they'll bring some pressure. I think he's going to have to be able, Chris, to do some check downs and maybe change some plays at the line of scrimmage, because the Jets will bring some pressure, and they'll disguise that pressure because they got corners that can play man up, especially against our receivers. I mean, Sauce Gardner's not going to have a problem with anybody he lines up against on our team.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring pressure, Chris. So he's going to have to make some quick decisions, and I think Van Pelt is going to have to establish some plays, Chris, where there's some quick decisions where he can get the ball out quickly in the slot to guys like Douglas and guys like maybe Bourne. Bourne hasn't played a lot of snaps. Because those will be there, Chris. But if you think you're going to sit and wait for them to get open, he'll be running for his life against this defense because they're not skilled enough at the receiver position, Chris. It's going to have to be quick.
You're going to see a lot more 12. You're going to see more tight ends on the field again.
You see more tight ends on the field, Chris, you're going to get blown out again. If they come out with the same personnel and don't try to do anything different against this Jets team, and yes, the quarterback's different, obviously a big upgrade from Brissett, but if you're going to run the same types of packages that you ran when you went to MetLife, you're going to get your face kicked in because their defense is good. You're going to get your face kicked in.
Yeah. And I'd like to see in some of his his progression, or, him build from one week to the next. I don't think it's any secret New England's going to try to run the ball a little bit. You got to get up
Chris,
there.
I think they have to win this game because I think the Jets create too much pressure on the quarterback. You can't just sit back there and throw the ball 40 times, 50 times to beat this team.
Right. So what I want to see out of him is what are his checks at the line? I want to see him get up to the line. I want to see him see a defense, see a zero look, see an overload, and get out of the play. Check out, get to something that will work with what he's seeing. That I'd like to see. I'd like to see him bring in the tight end if he needs to chip a little bit off some of these defensive end guys, some of these players that get pressure. I'd like to see him do some of that in protection and in his checks at the line. Those are the kind of things I like to see him progressing on, and I want to see him continue to stay in the pocket.
Freedom. I mean, I know he can check at the line, but I wonder how much freedom he has, Chris, to check out of things and to really bring a tight end in for extra protection. I know guys can check at the line, Chris, but then there's a level of freedom that they give the quarterback in making decisions. And I wonder, because he's a rookie, how much Van Pelt gives him.
I don't think Van Pelt knows how to do it. I don't think he
Okay.
understands it. So I'm
Okay.
not sure if it's even part of that simplistic, crappy offense that he's running. So I think May can do it, but I don't even know if it's in. I don't even know what they work on anymore because it doesn't ever seem that way. So we'll see what happens with May. You know, the big thing is this week, can he build? Can he build? Can he build? And we'll pay close attention to that. And you need to do the same and let us
Chris,
know.
only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history with 5 touchdowns after their first 2 starts. Drake May and Dan Marino.
Well, there you go. Good company. He's keeping good company. QB Breakdown was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. Hey, when we come back, we're going to go Pat's preview, talk about this Jets game from an offensive side, defensive side, and so much more. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to corsolawgroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pats Nation. So, Mark, let's break this thing down. Let's give our offensive keys, our defensive keys. We're going to do in Pat's preview. We're going to do it now.
Pat's preview.
Pat's preview, he says. You know? There we go. Who's is that an AI voice or is that you?
Oh, that would be Barry White from Beyond.
So 1 o'clock kickoff. Joe is already ready to
like
go.
3 deep into the Bloody Marys, I think.
He's already tailgating and ready to go at this game. All right, Mark, let's talk about the offensive keys to victory. Talked about Drake May, things he needs to get done. Start with the offensive line. I thought they were better last week.
They were better last week.
They were for sure better.
They're gonna get tested this week, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, there were three pressures, 3 quarterback hits last week, 2 sacks, much better. You know, the last game we played against the Jets, oof.
They were all over Brissett. That's what I'm saying. And granted, they had a couple of guys out in that game, but they lose guys every week on the O-line. So
every single week,
week.
But, you know, last week, you know, they started off with Jacobs, Jordan, Brown, Robinson, and Awinu at tackle. Now, I think they lost Robinson in that game, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And Sidney Soule came in for him. Yeah. But I thought Brown has been a fairly decent at center.
Listen, he's been a pleasant surprise, Chris. I mean, you picked him up off the scrap heap, but no, he's been a pleasant surprise at center. He really has.
He came in and played. I mean, like he was only there for several days, and he shows
Chris,
up.
He's doing all right. You can't say last week that he was the weak link of the offensive line. I thought he did fine.
No, I thought they played better. I thought there was some pockets. Look, for us to be sitting here saying that Drake May needs to trust the pocket a little more, not, you know, do a good job like he did last week of not bailing out, creating his own pressure.
Yeah,
that means the offensive line's playing better.
Yeah,
you know,
and this, considering this is like your 8th or 9th combination, 10th combination on the offensive line that you've thrown together.
However, I will say this: you cannot run the ball for 38 yards. Okay, so the offensive line is going to have to improve in the run game.
I was just going to say, Chris, I thought their pass protection was better, but this combination of linemen are struggling with running the ball.
Yeah. I mean, they ran the ball 15 times last week for 38 yards. I mean, you just can't 2.5 yards a carry. It's got to need to be better. Now, again, some of that scheme, you know, some of that, you know, I'm not seeing as much, Mark, of those wide zone runs like we used to see. Or that we were
and is
seeing.
Is that because this they just can't get this whole line and the guys they have playing certain positions, Chris, they just can't do it?
It's hard for me it's difficult for me not to get past the coaching. You know, like as I said, I mean that the offensive line, I may give the only pass that I probably give to the coaches on this team is the O-line, only because I give it more to the personnel department, to the, you know, about putting just crap on this team, you know, no left tackle. So, I mean, given what they have to work with, I think it'll be okay. And then moving over to the wide receiver group, Mark. I mean, we talked yesterday on Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field. Make sure you're tuning in Saturdays at noon. Cheap plug. We talked yesterday about the wide receivers and that I think that the 2 NFL receivers on this team are probably, guess who, Mark? Who are the 2 guys that we think are going to be NFL receivers?
Boutte and Douglas.
Yeah. Joe, I'm telling
I
you.
still think Baker has the opportunity, Chris, to be a solid NFL receiver. He's not going to be a 1, but I still think he can be a solid NFL receiver if he can ever straighten out whatever. I think it's more off the field issues with him, Chris, and attitude. And if he can straighten that out and grow up, I think he'll be okay.
So talk about, yeah, I'm with you. And so the guys you need to see on this field are going to be Douglas, Boutte. You want to see what Baker could bring.
Baker.
Obviously, I think they're done with Thornton. I mean, he hasn't played.
They're done with Thornton, and I think after what his agent said this week, I don't know how much longer Osborne might even be on the team. I would have released him. You know what? Screw you. Want to get traded? Okay, you're released. I would have released him this week. I would have released him. But you're putting up with him. Who the hell is he? He's not a. It's not like you're putting up with a 15 touchdown, 1,200 yard receiver. He's a journey 4th, 5th receiver. Release him. Screw you. Release him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing with the
you want to show you're a head coach and you're in charge and you're the man. Get rid of him. Okay, you know what? We don't need this. That. We don't need that on this team. You're gone. See ya. Release him. Go see who picks you up.
Yeah, or at least make him inactive. Do something.
Make him inactive. Supposedly, that's what pissed him off, Chris. He was supposed to be inactive last week, Osborne, but he only played because Baker came up with like the flu the morning of the game.
Talk about that off field with these receivers, because you're hearing a lot of chirping, a lot of crap out of guys that just have not prove it guys. They haven't proved anything.
None of them have proven anything.
And you got guys like Polk saying, I got the best hands in the NFL. Oh, he's falling down all over the field. He's running the wrong routes. They're sloppy routes. They're running into each other. They're ending up in the same place. Mark, why are these guys so arrogant?
Well, because first of all, they were given that platform because in the preseason, when he got hired, Mayo said that he's going to give his guys the freedom and they can express themselves on this team. And okay, well, how's that working for you right now, Gerard? How's that working? I don't know.
Because he's no control. He's got no control, especially in the wide receiver room. That's not working
too good. No.
He's got no control of the wide receiver room. And as much as Kendrick Bourne is trying to piece that together and be the leader of that room, it's just not working at this point. They're all pissed off. You got Boutte saying, I'm not putting up with what, he talked about last year with Belichick that he toe tap or whatever it was. And then he ended up in the doghouse. And I'm not putting up with that SH this year. Who the hell do you think you are?
Who the hell are you? You know what? See, I didn't realize he said that. Who the hell are you? You haven't done nothing in this league yet. Listen, on the play before the punt, Chris, where Jacksonville runs it back for a touchdown. Polk, there's a ball thrown to Polk. He gets the defender hits him pretty good in the back. Ball pops out. He drops it. Whatever. His thing coming out of college, Chris, all we heard from Elliott Wolf and all these guys, he had a great catch radius.
Yeah.
Right? Had great hands, knew how to maneuver his body. And that catching that ball in that situation was supposed to be the reason why you drafted him. And he couldn't hold on to the ball.
That's why you're here.
That was supposedly why you drafted him. Everything that he was supposed to do to make that catch was why you drafted him. So then you got to punt and they run the thing back for a touchdown. And there you go.
So route combinations have to be better. That's it. The scheme has got to be better, and they got to do a better job running routes. They got to stem routes, get to those, get guys inside, create separation that way.
But you're talking about stem. How about KJ Osborne on the ball that they thought May should do a bad ball that was going to get picked? But as soon as that happened, you said, no, those guys are the announcers are wrong. That's not on May. That's on Osborne. Explain.
He's running it out. He's running a deep out. Okay, out to the sideline, and what you do on that route as a wide receiver is when you're running straight up the field, they call it stemming the route. You like a flower stem. You're running straight up the field and you're leaning that defender inside. You're hoping that defender has got inside leverage on you, and so you're leaning inside, just to get that defensive back to just lean a little bit. Then boom, you dig that foot in, you dig that inside foot in, and you get to the out. What that does is it create a lot of separation for the corner or the D-back against you, and now it's a nice, easy throw for the quarterback. Instead, what does he do? He's leaning outside. His route's sloppy, and then he rounds it. Doesn't drive that foot in the ground and rounds it to the out. Meanwhile, the defensive back's right on top of the route.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that in this league. So that they're going to have to get better there, Mark, right there. That's the first thing they got to do. Run the routes better and hope that the and to me, so give me your keys, or do you want to wait till we do picks to give me your keys?
Let's wait till we do picks. Let's wait till we do picks.
Well, then let's go to the defensive side of the ball now. To me, the bigger issue, which is, I mean, oh my God, it blows your mind.
Where do you even begin with this?
Well, I'd like to begin with what Bedard had to say on the defense, Joe, if you're ready on that.
It was a joke. I can't tell you how many plays there were. And this is before the Jaguars started running on them in the second half.
Oh, pissed off.
Where I was just like, wait, this makes no sense. Well, how come there's not a player in this gap? Where is this player going? You have players, Marte Mapu's blowing coverages all over the place. There's just open run gaps on the second level, like all the time. None of it made any sense to me. And to me, it looked like a team that either the coaches didn't prepare right, they're not being coached well. They look completely unprepared for this game. I don't know if it was something about being in London and the trip, but it was infuriating to watch. I can only imagine the players, after Mayo made his comment, that they go back and watch the film and be like, you think we're soft? What the hell are you? You guys are incompetent. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You're putting us in this position. We got Christian Ellis running with this guy. We have this gap uncovered. And what are you guys doing about it? Nothing.
Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal this week after that Jaguars game. Mark, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, and he's making all the same points we've made and we've been making, So with this defense, it's the biggest problem on the team right now. And that's crazy to say. I mean, that's with how bad the offense is right now. That's so, especially when you got a defensive head coach, but talking about the play on the field and now what needs to be done.
He clearly calls out the coaching staff, the defensive coaching staff, Chris, in that short clip.
Because you have to. Because you have to.
Like, basically, they're not prepared. They don't know what they're calling. They don't know what they're not. You know what I mean? Like, he really calls them out.
I went back and I watched the overhead of some of this. Now, I like an end zone view is like looking facing the offense. So I got the defense in front of me when I watch in practice, but I look at the overhead. And I'm looking at some of these things to Greg's point, okay, to Bedard's point. I'm seeing big gaps, in the defense, meaning they may line up in an even front with 4 down linemen, okay? And some of them may be in 3 techniques in a gap. And then I'm watching these guys get blocked, creased, where now there's enormous gaps being opened up for the back, for the running back. And that happens. I get that because we're an undersized defensive line, Mark. Okay. Yeah. But what I don't understand and what needs to improve today, okay, is where the hell are the linebackers fitting up into those gaps? Those gaps are extending into the second level where the linebackers are. Okay. So the running back must feel like, holy crap, I got nothing to worry about here. I don't understand it. Why aren't linebackers making those defensive linemen right? Why aren't they getting on the opposite side and plugging those gaps? Why?
Chris, it's like they don't even know what they're doing out there. Well, first of all, Chris, they're freelancing. All right. So we don't even know what they're being told defensively because I think they're freelancing. And when you look at the tape, Chris, you can see that they're freelancing. And whether or not they're being told that they should be filling this gap or that gap, or is it that they're just doing their own thing and they're shooting wrong holes and wrong gaps because you know what I mean? They definitely are freelancing, and you can see that on the film, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's stopping the run is all about responsibility.
If they freelance with Belichick, they'd be on the bench. They wouldn't see the field.
That's what happened with Chandler Jones and guys like that.
Belichick in the at the break, you'd see him at the defense, giving them notes. You don't see Mayo doing any of that.
Jamie Collins.
He's right.
Jamie Collins lost his roster spot on this team. He traded him because of the 2 freelance plays he made in Denver in the playoff game. Remember?
That's what I was thinking of. But Joe's right.
Freelancers, if he plays where Belichick puts him, they don't score those 2 touchdowns. We go to the Super Bowl and we win another Super Bowl.
Yeah. But Joe's right. I don't see Mayo.
No,
Mayo. Do goddamn thing.
Chris, as much as Tavai's been in the wrong spot, chosen the wrong gap, done the wrong thing, missed tackles, he's on the field for 75, 80% of the defensive plays, maybe more, Chris.
He keeps getting a pass. This is what makes me laugh my ass. He keeps getting a pass, Tavai, because they're saying, well, he's out of position. He's playing Bentley's spot when he should be playing more on the outside. Listen, there were plenty of times last year. He's the same player he was last year. I mean, he may have made a few more plays. He's the same player. You got him in coverage, he stinks. You try to get him in gaps. You try to run blitz him, he chooses wrong. Look, stopping the run is a mentality on defense. Stopping the run is an assignment. It's an assignment-based act. You have specific assignments on defense. Okay, so if you ask me, what do they need to do this week? How do they need to stop Breece Hall? God bless them. But how are they going to do it? You have a job to do on defense. You have an assignment. Okay, within that assignment is a read and react situation. Ball's coming through. As a linebacker, you got to react. You're reading, you're reacting, you're reading your defensive lineman. Defensive lineman gets blocked to the right. I got to fill to the left. That's your assignment. And they've got to get better. They have to be better on being disciplined in their assignments, okay? To say nothing about the physical issues. We'll put that aside for now, is the fact that they're undersized and they don't have middle linebackers that can tackle anymore. But, I mean,
They're missing Bentley. I get it. All right, I get it. They're missing Bentley. Fine. But you made the point on yesterday's show, Chris. Bentley, a lot of times, to run, but that's not the reason why you're getting gashed in the middle of the field, because a lot of times he would come off the field on 3rd down.
Right. So
you don't have he definitely would help against a run, but a lot of times, Chris, he was second tier. So by the time Bentley may be 5 yards down the field, or Chris, a lot of times you would scream because he picked the wrong gap.
Yeah, he would choose wrong too. Yeah.
Huh?
He would choose wrong too.
They'd go right by him and you'd go crazy.
Yeah. And also what they're going to have to do is, last game they played against Rodgers got out. He got out and he didn't run downfield, but he got out into that flat area and he just sat there and just.
Well, Chris, our edges were awful. We couldn't seal the edge on him. Do you see anything? What's going to change? Well, this will be interesting, Chris, to see if they made any coaching adjustments, because let's see what they do if they can keep Rodgers the second time around. And I'll tell you this. If the Jets were smart, you mentioned Breece Hall.
Yeah.
They would run the ball 30, 35 times with Breece Hall. Rodgers is not going to allow that. Rodgers wants to throw the damn ball. He's got Devontae Adams now. So they don't use, because Rodgers is under center, they don't use Breece Hall the way he should be used, Chris, anymore in this offense. Hall, they're just not doing it. Hall should be carrying the ball 25 times a game. He's not.
Yeah. And so they're going to have to set edge. They're going to have to keep Rodgers.
So maybe they don't gas you, Chris, like Jacksonville and Houston did running the ball, because maybe because of Rodgers, they don't run the ball as much.
I'll believe it when I see it, man. They're horrible against the run. Oh my God. They are just atrocious. And now, Mark, with the last minute we got, how you dealing with Wilson and now Adams?
Well, Chris, if you remember in the last game,
Gonzalez needs to play better than last week.
You talked about the center of the field. Remember the tight end had like 100 yards receiving almost in that last game?
That was Tavai. Yeah, it was on Tavai a lot.
That was Tavai. Well, listen, Gonzalez has to step up his game this week, because I'm assuming he's going to be on Devontae Adams a lot, because last week, Brian Thomas Jr., he struggled. Brian Thomas Jr. is fast, a little physical, and Gonzalez struggled with him. He got beat. He was on him a lot of the day, and he got beat. He got beat on that pass down the center of the field, Chris, and which I didn't think the coverage was bad. But then when you looked at it, you were like, yeah, no, that's on Gonzalez. That he shouldn't have been able to catch that ball.
No, I agree, and you can help them. Covington has got to help them. You've got to disguise some of these coverages.
Chris,
you can't just sit in base all day.
But Chris, speaking of that, so then there's another play in that game, and I said to you, Chris, this is going to go unmentioned by anybody, but so they're at the line. All Trevor Lawrence is a bad quarterback, Chris, for Jacksonville.
That
oh my
whole
God,
class sucks, huh?
All he had to do was check out of it, Chris. Mapu, because of the motion of the play, ends up on Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
And Brian Thomas Jr. runs right by him. And there's no deep safety. Whoever was supposed to be playing center field's not even there. And Lawrence throws the ball like out in the flat, doesn't even pick up the fact that Mapu was one-on-one on Brian. He should have changed the play, Chris.
And this is what I'm saying. This is what the problem you're having.
Lawrence had a touchdown.
Absolutely. That score could have been worse. Look, this is the problem that you have schematically. You don't have a Belichick anymore to say, this is where we're deficient. We got a problem here. We're not stopping the run, but here is where we have the problem. Here's where we're getting gashed. Here's the undersized issue. So we're going to do this, and we're going to take that away. If they beat us some other way, fine. But we're going to take that away, and they're going to have to do something different. And they're not doing that. And they're not disguising their coverages. They're sitting in base too much with cover two. They're sitting in base if it's single high, zone underneath, or if it's cover one. Whatever it is, they're sitting in it too much, and they're not disguising it. And if you have option routes for the Jets, these guys, it's easy. It's simple.
Chris, but you know what I find interesting? We thought that they did a good job in week 1 against Cincinnati disguising the coverage. Remember?
Yeah. Either that or Cincinnati just sucked.
Either that or Cincinnati just sucked that day.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But Covington's getting out coached, so they're all getting out coached. So that's what I think. But to win this game, and you're gonna have to play penalty free. I mean, you can't.
Chris, again, last week, every week, they just rack. They're an undisciplined team on top of it, Chris, because they're racking up penalties every week. I'm glad you brought up the penalties. We didn't bring that up on the show yesterday.
They had 7 penalties.
Every week, Chris. They got between 7 and 10 penalties every single week, at least.
It's unacceptable. And we'll talk about that in the next segment more in Coach's Corner. But Pat's preview was presented by Corso and Catone. The real deal, New England Field, Saturdays, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. Hey, we got Bruins, we got Celtics, we got now Yankees going.
Yankees, we have everything.
And, of course, we have Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. But when we come back, we're going to go into the coaching room in Coach's Corner. No flipping.
Mark, I'm seriously. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
it.
What is wrong with
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Field. It's going to be real.
Well, what a lot of issues we have. Woof. Use that promo, Joe.
It's just awesome. The boys on Saturdays poster in the back. I love it.
And where the hell did I get that red shirt? Well, you allowed me to wear that red shirt, Joe. My goodness.
What's wrong with the red shirt?
I don't know.
It's a power color, man.
It's a power color. I used to wear the red shirt when they lose with the post-game show. So
for those of you on 790, wear that every week.
For those of you on 790 and iHeart, make sure you get on YouTube and watch a couple of these things because, just the faces Mark makes alone, you never want to see that. But speaking of faces, speaking of irritation, things have got to get better in the coaching room. Let's break it down in Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner.
While Joe is playing that, it's pictures of the Covington and Van Pelt, and I'm going stink, all of them.
Well, before it was who's that? We didn't even know who the hell they were. Now it's they stink, Chris.
Joe wants to play that wash. Joe, play Mayo.
Good evening, or whatever time it is. Look, Look, disappointing game. Disappointing game. We came out, we started fast. What I would say is, look, we're a soft football team across the board. We talk about what makes a tough football team. That's being able to run the ball. That's being able to stop the run. Cover kicks, and we did none of those today.
My goodness.
That's
So he calls out the team. Everybody knows it. We're talking about it all week long. He calls them out, calls them soft. Next day, brings it back a little bit, says, well, we're playing soft. We're not actually soft, which I think, Mark, that's a little worse. If you're gonna come out and say the team's soft, stay with it. Don't now walk it back the next day. Then you have bubbles coming out of your ears.
Yeah, exactly. That's worse.
You know,
Just own it. Yeah, I said it. But that's the way I felt at the moment. Whatever.
A lot of people all week took the perspective and the side of, Jesus, you can't do that. Bedard was one of those guys. And I think we have that audio in a minute. Was one of those guys that said that geez, you can't call this team out. And I will say that a first-year head coach, who's done nothing.
That's if Belichick said that, Chris, he probably could have gotten away with it, but not a first-year head coach who's done nothing, who has one win on his resume.
That and the fact that you're going to call your team soft, but you're not going to do anything about it.
No.
See, if Belichick is going to call those guys out, you can be sure as hell there's going to be significant changes the next game. But the perspective everybody had all week, Mark, and this is the question I have for you.
Yep.
The perspective everybody's had all week is one-sided. Should Mayo have done that? Is he going to lose the locker room? Did he ever have the locker room? Mark, are they soft, though? Nobody's asked that question.
I don't think they're soft, Chris. I think they're poorly coached. They're poorly prepared. And I'm going to be honest. And I think we're going to listen to your friend, Mr. Belichick, shortly talk about this. But Chris, they're poorly coached. They're poorly prepared, which equates to them getting run all over. I don't know if they played soft. I think the preparation stinks. And they're just, it is what it is. I don't know if I don't think they're soft. Do you, Chris?
They're
certainly not playing well.
There are parts of this team that are, and simply because from an upstairs standpoint, if you're freelancing, if you're not playing within the system, if you're choosing to do those things, then that's mentally soft to me. Have enough to be able to be a professional, come out there and do it, and the guy who didn't like it, and I've never heard stick up for the player, is Belichick. Joe.
Yeah.
He's done some good things. In the end, we'll see how it goes when situations get a little more competitive and all that. But, defensively, the Patriots led the league last year in rushing defense, yards per carry, number one in the league.
So happy to be saying it.
And this year they're way down in the 20s somewhere. It's the same guys. They re-signed Jennings, they re-signed Tavai, they re-signed obviously Duggar, right? Marcus Jones and Gonzalez have been healthy all year, which they were both on IR at this point last year. So you got Wise, you got Godshaw, you got Keon White, you got
name them all.
You got Gonzalez, 3 rookies from last year. So it's a lot of the same players, and in some cases, I would say more. So I don't, I'm kind of hurt for those guys because to call them soft, they're not soft. They were the best team in the league last year against the run. And those guys went out there and did it, even though we couldn't score many points offensively. So I don't know. I feel bad for the defensive players on that one because those guys, that's a tough group. I mean, John Jones, Godshaw,
naming them,
guys, Jennings, those are all Uche. Those guys are all tough players. Like they'll strap it up and go. Duggar, I mean, they're tough guys.
Wow, Jesus.
I've never heard Have you ever heard Belichick say, I feel for a player?
No, but listen, I am going to say this, Chris. In all the years he was here, in the film room, when they're by themselves as a team, you bet your ass he would say, "What are you, soft? Are you soft? Yeah. What is it like?" But he's not going to say that publicly because he called guys out and all the time when they went through film as a team. but he would never do it publicly, Chris.
Ever.
He never did that publicly.
Never. You never
He
ever hear
always
Belichick.
said, he
ever.
always said, we got to play better in all three phases. We got to coach and get better. We got to throw better. We got to run better.
Right.
But he never called out and said a team is soft. A player never really called out a player.
Yeah.
After he kicked their ass in the film room and embarrassed people. I mean, yeah, he called them out, but not publicly like that, Chris.
No. And, you know, I mean, this is great for shows like this. You know, Belichick never gave you anything. But, you know, Mark, before we get to Alex Van Pelt, which we want to do now, he's going to divide this lock. I'm not sure he's got these guys. I'm not sure because, again, it's what Bedard said. It's a reflection on you. You're going to call your team soft. You are too, because these guys are all soft in the brain because they're just not getting it done. They don't know what to do. Yeah. They don't know how to adjust. Mayo can't handle in-game situations. And today he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to get end of half. He hasn't been good. He hasn't been good with timeout usage. He hasn't been good with the direction he wants to go in 2 minutes. Like, they're just not good enough. And he's certainly not good enough at getting them out of things and putting them in positions to succeed when they see something working right. You know, and that's on Mayo. Now, talking about the overall, because Joe, I think we have Bedard, right? Talking about Mayo a little bit. And it's kind of talking about the rest of the team too, the rest of the coaches.
Says if you're a soft football team, that reflects on your coach. Do you agree that the softness of the team, the dysfunction of the team reflects on the head coach?
100%. And we've sort of been talking about this for weeks. That I think this team is rudderless. I think that Gerard Mayo has not looked at this team with a critical eye. He has not rolled up his sleeves and really assessed his team and decided, like, all right, this is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to do things. But, you know, the bigger thing is, like, you cannot, as the head coach, go to the podium after a game and call your team soft, which is what he did. Because it does, you're indicting yourself. It's a reflection on you. If that's the way your team plays, if they can't run the ball, if they're getting run over in the run game, which this is not the first time it happened. It also happened against Miami, 7 straight times for a touchdown run. And then the coach gets up there and says, there's no question we're tough. And I come on this radio show on Tuesday and say, what game is he watching? And that he's not seeing what's wrong with this team. And he's in real time, let alone, forget about during a game, them actually addressing things during a game, but from week to week and saying, like, all right, we're not doing these things well. How are we going to win this game? And to me, it's just been a train wreck. And now he's run out of people to point fingers at. Now he's done it at the players. And now you are risking this season really going off the rails. If you thought Sunday was bad, and that was about the worst Patriots defensive film I think I've ever watched in my life, in terms of the players not knowing what to do, the coaches not giving them answers, like, things could go really, really downhill quickly.
Yeah, listen, Mark, and it's everything you and I said. He doesn't make any adjustments. And this goes through the whole coaching staff. You're right. He's right. It is an indictment on Mayo. The only problem with that is you're indicting yourself, but you're not owning it yourself.
Well, did you hear him once in that press conference? Maybe he did. I missed it, Chris, when he called them soft. Did he say that we have to get better in all phases, coaching?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. But the minute he called the rest of the team soft, he should have called he and his coaching staff soft as well. The entire team, if you're going to do it. But he left himself, and he left. Look, you're running out of people to blame. Everybody's blaming Covington, Alex Van Pelt, this one, that one, the player. When is it going to get on him? When is he going to get dirt on his face, this guy?
Well, listen, I think he's gotten some. Listen, if you listen to Bedard's comments and a couple of other analysts' comments, I think he's getting some dirt on his face. But does it really matter? Like, is Robert Kraft going? He's not going to lose his job, Chris. And I think he knows that. He has job security at least for another year. And I think he knows that, Chris, because all they keep talking about is, well, this is a rebuild. This is a rebuild, that's BS to me. When an organization is saying that, then you're going to be a perpetual loser, because that's what the Cleveland Browns say. Well, we're in a rebuild. No, you're supposed to be trying to win football games. You extended these guys like they were worthy of being extended. They were good players. You're the worst team in the league, Chris. Yeah. You were the worst team in the league. You're as of now, you've got the number 1 pick in the draft. That's not acceptable.
Somebody's head's going to have to roll for this, and maybe it'll be Alex Van Pelt. Mark, today, what we talked about the deficiencies on offense and the simplicity of the offensive scheme, the simplicities of the route combinations, okay, and the route concepts that just aren't. They're not intricate enough. They're not NFL enough. You know,
Chris, you said you see more intricate route running at the high school level.
You do. You see more rubs. You see the over-under routes more. You see those sideline verticals. You see, they're running some of that, but a lot of it is, some bench routes and then you get the receivers that aren't good enough to do it. But Mark, so today, okay, I mean, you're seeing mirrored routes out of this team. Both sides doing the same. I mean, that you shouldn't be seeing that in the NFL. No. Both sides of the field running the same stuff. What's he got to do today? Can he redeem himself, and how? Alex Van Pelt.
Listen, last week,
and then we'll get to Sunday spread. But go ahead.
Last week, Chris, when May got hot, May started out with a hot hand. He didn't take advantage of it. He still was putting 2 tight ends on the field. You mentioned this yesterday. It wasn't necessarily 12 personnel, but it actually was, because you still had the tight ends on the field. Maybe one of them was spread out wide, but they were still on the field at the same time. Yeah. He does nothing different, Chris. So give me the stat, Chris, of the attempts that May made. How many of those attempts went to non-wide receivers?
Okay, so Henry had I'm pretty sure out of the 37 attempts, and without taking the time to count them up, I believe it was like 26 of those, 25 or 26 were to non-wide receivers.
Now, is that because May checked down or chose the receiver? Was it bad route running? Receiver wasn't open, couldn't get separation. He had to go to his outlet, his check down, his second, third option. Maybe.
Some, but Chris, not as much as Hunter Henry had 9 targets.
No, but Chris, that's Alex Van Pelt's. Yes, I was going to say that. That's Alex Van Pelt's play design, Chris. That's why he's got 2 tight ends on the field. That's why he's calling what he's calling. That's unacceptable in the 2024 NFL. It's unacceptable. Okay, I'm getting excited, but it's unacceptable, Chris. How was it possible?
I don't know. And well, I know when you're running, and because the same stuff's happening with McCarthy down in Dallas, and the same stuff is happening with Stefanski
old school West Coast offense,
right, in Cleveland,
that don't exist in this NFL anymore, Chris.
No. So somebody's going to have to roll for this. If they win one game this year, and if they come out today and they look like that, and the route concepts are still the same, and it's just that kind of thing,
they're not going to change, Chris. They're going to be the same. No, the only thing that might change is if Baker gets on the field. Maybe they try to throw the ball downfield a little more. I don't know.
Maybe. But if they can't establish the run,
I don't know if he's active yet. I mean, it's still too early. We don't know who the actives and inactives are yet. But with Polk with a concussion, I'm assuming Baker's active.
Yeah, because they're not going to activate Thornton today, and I feel like it'll be Douglas, Bourne, probably Osborne,
Butte and Baker.
Now
that doesn't mean Baker will see the field. He might be active, and they might just have him stand out there like they did the first week or two.
So we'll see. And as far as Covington goes, we talked about that in the last segment. Make better adjustments, stay out of base as much, get some more pressure other than 9%. You got to get that done today, okay?
Imagine, if they only get 9% pressure, Chris, they're going to get blown out.
Right, and your run fits have got to be better. You've got to instill in these guys how to fit up in the run game to stop Breece Hall. So that's what we expect to see. That's what we hope to see today in some of this. But Coach's Corner was presented by Corso Law Group, CorsoLawGroup.com. Maybe we come back. We're going to make you some money in Sunday spread. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pats Nation. Okay, Mark, here we go. We're going to get into Sunday spread. Last week we did, I thought, I always mean to bring the, here it comes.
Here it comes.
You can't play that, Joe. You can't. I can't let you, he got to stop playing that stuff because I'm going to run right to Casino, Arizona.
Here it comes.
I can't, it'll never get me out of that joint. Okay. I always mean to bring the previous picks but I always forget to jot it down or bring it back. But I'm pretty sure last week
you had a good week.
Had a good week.
I had a bad. Well, I had a good week other than one game. I listen.
Well, you and I were back and forth on the pit. Was it the Pittsburgh game or the Jets?
Pittsburgh, yeah, it was the Pittsburgh game. We both I liked San Fran, not knowing Ayuk was going to go out with a knee injury. I mean, that team, Chris.
Well, I didn't know Deebo Samuel would be sick.
Well, that was the other thing. We didn't know Samuel was going out before pregame, right? Getting sick. So
yeah,
Kansas City gets every break.
I can't anymore with them.
And now they signed DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, traded for him. Okay.
I'm disgusted with that. They're going to win 3. They're going to three-peat this thing.
They're going to three-peat. Yep, they're going to three-peat.
And everybody out there in the Pats Nation is going to be sick to this. We'll be wearing black armbands during that Super Bowl. Okay, so getting to this week now, let's see if we can make these people some money. If you better listen to us because we know what the hell we're talking about. And like I always say, bet in game. Bet in game. If you got the time and you're watching the game, you can feel scores coming. Sometimes you can catch it before they adjust that line and bet in game. Mark, what do you have?
First game I like this week, Chris, is Houston at home. They got beat. They're coming off a loss last week. Tough loss last week. Man, I don't know how Indianapolis is 4-3. I really don't. I think Indianapolis stinks, Chris. I think Houston's going to give at home is going to beat them and beat them pretty good. I'd give the points with Houston this week.
What's the spread? You didn't say it.
The spread is 5, but 5.5. I would definitely go with Houston. The other game,
I like that pick. You like
that pick?
Well, because I think Indy's a fraud too.
Yeah, Indy is a fraud. The other game I like, Chris. Now, please pay attention because I haven't announced if he's playing officially yet.
You're talking about Tua?
No, Washington, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
See if he's playing. Okay. They're a road underdog. A home underdog. I'm sorry.
3 points.
They're getting 3 points from Chicago at Washington. I'm assuming that's because they don't know if Daniels is playing. If Daniels is out, they haven't made the decision yet. It's a game time decision. Pull it back. Don't bet it. But if he's playing, take Washington plus the points because I don't think Chicago's that good. I think Caleb Williams is playing much better the last 3 weeks, but I think Washington's a good team, Chris. If Daniels plays, Washington's a good team.
I do too. I mean, they're going to challenge that division.
And then lastly, Chris, my third game at home, and I have gone against them this year, but you finally convinced me. And no, it's not Arizona. No, it's not Arizona. You'll never convince me on Arizona. At home, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to kick the living daylights out of the Giants who stink.
6 point spread.
The game's at Pittsburgh. On Monday night, they're going to kick the living crap out of the New York Giants because the Giants stink.
So you can use that game as a get-right game if you take it.
That's a get-right game if you lost it. Boy, you and I have tried that many a times.
If you get your face kicked in on Sunday, you go to Monday night. Remember that? Kansas City game?
Back in the day, there was a game on a Monday night. I don't know. He's trying to get even.
You're going to talk about that Kansas City game with Montana, aren't you?
This is before the DraftKings and all that. You'd have to call somebody.
This is when Joe Montana played for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's Joe's friend, Montana.
Go to the Chiefs.
Well, all of a sudden, he's on the phone with me. Now, this is before the days of cell phones. He's on the phone with me. All of a sudden, the goddamn phone goes dead. I said, what the hell happened to him? Is he all right over here? He lost the bet. I said, what the hell happened over here? The next day, he calls me. I said, what the hell happened to you? I threw the damn phone against the TV. I broke Evan, and he says.
Montana threw a touchdown pass to end the game. Completely screwed me. Completely screwed me.
He says, I threw the phone.
Yeah, I had to go upstairs and roll change. I had to take change out and start getting the rolls, roll it up, the quarters, the dimes, and pennies and stuff. This is what
who's your picks?
All right. So, okay. I had a few this week, but I like, and it's a big spread. Baltimore's on the road against Cleveland. Okay, 8.5. Yeah, I think Baltimore's going to just. The Cleveland fans will be out of that stadium by half. Okay.
You know, I looked at that. I did like that myself. That's a good one, Chris. I like that one.
Baltimore, the way they run the ball, you know. And by the way, Henry has a chance to. And bet if you get Henry and some of these guys on any time scores, bet some of that. Bet some of those prop bets. He may break the touchdown or the yards record this year for the running backs. Henry. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a home dog against Atlanta. Now, is Mayfield not hurt, right? Is he?
No, but Evans and Godwin are both out.
All right, forget that. Scratch that then. Forget that. Let's go to Buffalo at Seattle. Buffalo's given up 3 on the road. Seattle's a home dog. Buffalo's going to slap that team around. Now, Mari Cooper caught a touchdown pass last week. You're going to see more of that this week because I don't think Seattle – I'm not sold on anything Seattle does. Nothing. Okay? And then the other game I have is Green Bay at Jacksonville. Green Bay's given up 4 at Jacksonville. I don't know if people are feeling good about Jacksonville because they beat New England last week, but Green Bay should slap that team around pretty good, and I think they will. So those are my picks. Now, getting to this game today, Mark.
Wait, before you get there, I want to ask a question about one get-right game this week.
Yeah.
And you brought it up with Joe Montana throwing a touchdown.
He's going to talk San Fran now. What?
Well, they're playing Dallas. What do you think? Win or loser? That's all I need to know. What do you think?
And that's a 4.5 point spread, by the way. San Fran
has so many injuries on offense, Chris.
Yeah,
McCaffrey's out. Ayuk's out for the season. I mean, I know Samuel will be back this week, but I don't know.
I think Dallas is going to pull that upset, Joe.
Yeah.
They might, but, just one of those things. Dallas looked terrible this year.
I know, but like Mark said, I'm not feeling San Fran this year.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Too many injuries.
Yeah.
Too many injuries.
This game, New England is getting 7 at home. Mark, what do you got? Why? Tell me, what do we got and why?
They're not going to be able to stop the Jets offense. I mean, the combination of Breece Hall, Rodgers, Adams, Wilson, tight ends, 37-24. I think we'll put up 24 this week. May will probably throw 3 more touchdowns this week. 37-24 Jets.
Yeah, I disagree with May. I think this is going to be a week that he struggles.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think he's going to throw a couple of picks this week. I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure, is what I think is going to happen this week. I don't think they're going to be able to establish the run game. I do not think they will, the Patriots. And I think he's going to be under a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think he's going to throw maybe a touchdown or 2 picks. And for every reason you said on the other side of the ball, I got it at 30-17. I got the Jets winning 30-17. So those are our picks. Hey, remember what I always tell you? Bet for want, not for need. Right, Mark? Bet for want.
That's right. Of course. Yes. Of
not
course.
For need. But the Pats Nation was presented. The Pats Nation was presented by Corso Catone. Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a breakdown of this Jets game. So tune in next Saturday to that. And watch and listen to all of our shows and come back next Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to break down that Titans game. And we're going to have so much more. Mark will be have Bloody Marys, and we'll all be ready to go.
Look for Joe. Look for Joe at the tailgating today.
He's face down in the parking lot somewhere.
and you're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to leave early, Joe. So make sure you don't. We'll be watching. We are the Pats Nation. Enjoy the game.